All right. How y'all doing? Welcome to the Enlightenment Period. For those of you who do not know what my channel is, we basically talk about things that men are interested in, things that men should know in today's world. Today, the world is evolving, and it seems like there's less and less places for men to be men and truly discuss men-related topics, things that men actually need to know, you know, just to exist and just to exist in this world and actually strive and thrive in it. So this is going to be sort of a safe haven. So just understand what it is. Right out the gate, I just want to send a shout out to my cousin. Her Instagram is a healing poet. I believe there's an underscore before it, but it's a healing poet, all one word. Go check her out. She represents and identifies as a Hebrew Israelite or just an Israelite. Good people. If you want to hear truth, she speaks a lot of life on her channels. Go check her out. Most definitely. She does poetry. She sends out messages and things of that nature. She sort of, identifies with, with Black people in a way that most people aren't familiar with hearing. So most definitely go check her out 100%. So the topic for today is going to be masculinity versus femininity. And that's kind of a topic that in today's world kind of gets, thrown around in a lot of circles. Feminists, you have like MGTOW, you have all these people who pretty much talk about it and kind of talk around it. And a lot of people don't really understand and take it for what it really is. So starting off, we're just going to read the definitions of both to sort of illustrate some points. So the first definition I have here is of masculinity, and it states, qualities or attributes regarded as characteristic of men. And the example that they use, a sentence that they use was handsome, muscle driven. He's a prime example of masculinity. Okay, and in other words they used to describe it was vigor, strength, muscularity, ruggedness, toughness, robustness. All right. So all these things they use to describe masculinity, right? Once again, male qualities, ascribed to men. All right. And then we go down to femininity. All right. So femininity, you have qualities or attributes regarded characteristic of women. And the sentence that they used was, she alternated between embracing her femininity and concealing it. All right. Once again, I just want you to note that in that definition, they gave no specific descriptives. When they talked about the man's, it was, handsome, muscle, driven. He's a prime example of masculinity. And in the women's, they did not have any examples. They simply just said, she alternated between embracing her femininity and concealing it. Okay, so let's move forward. Other words, synonyms they used to describe it was womanliness, feminineness, womanhood, womanly qualities, feminine qualities. And the last example they said was, she had delighted in her femininity. Once again, no exact descriptives, right? And I think that comes from a misunderstanding. I think it comes from a misunderstanding of, it's a mixture of two things. The first thing is a misunderstanding or an inadequate understanding or comprehension of what makes up femininity. What makes something feminine? Apart from gender, what makes something feminine? And I think the other part of that is an attempt to not offend, right? So women, are the fairer sex. And if you say naturally by their definition that masculinity means strong and muscular and vigorous and, all these things, then femininity would essentially be weak, helpless, harmless, right? Soft, all these things. And that could be easily seen as offensive, especially in the world where you have women who a lot of times have to sort of take on the masculine role in a lot of situations, such as raising or rearing a child, working. A lot of women make more money than the men. In a world where women are becoming more and more masculine, in a sense, they don't want to be seen as feminine because they assume or they attribute, not just them, but it seems the world, by that definition, attributes it to being weak and helpless. But I want to challenge that today. Yeah. So start off by saying this. Everything is dual, right? We live in a world that's basically dualistic in nature. What that means is you have good and bad. Understand? Like there's no good without bad. There's no light without darkness. There's no, good day without a bad day to contrast it against, to compare it to. You understand. If you're more on the science side, there's no matter without antimatter. It all is a reflection of the other. They both absolutely need each other to exist. Think of the yin yang sign. You need both. For one to exist, the other has to exist. There is no, there is no inequality when it comes to that type of thing. So that's the first thing to understand, that it is necessary in this world. It's absolutely necessary to have both, right? So the next step will be to learn to actually appreciate it for what it is. And why is that important? So masculinity is boldness. It's straightforwardness. It's aggression. Right? And us as men, biologically, we're born with more testosterone than women are. And that's the main quality, or one of the main ingredients or deciding factors, determining factors on boldness. How bold are you? How confident are you going forward? Understand? How straightforward you are with certain things in certain situations. In a lot of situations, this is a very good thing. I'm a very bold person. I'm very upfront. Worked at a prison for about 5 years. You have to be very, very masculine to work in that field. People who work in the military, people who are, firefighters, police officers, think of them what you may. These are very tough fields to work in. You're literally going into a situation every day that is completely stressful. And you're dealing with people who are oftentimes confrontational. So if you don't have the ability to be bold, straightforward, intentional, right? Very, very decisive and very, very clear on what you want and mean and stick to your word. If you don't have that, you just simply do not survive in those fields. It just does not happen. So I think the application of those qualities, of masculine qualities, I think that's very clear to see, how you can easily use that to your benefit, right? Now, let's talk about femininity, right? Floyd Mayweather, all right? 50-0 at the time of this video. If he fights Magomed, that might change. He might get his first L. But in all seriousness, he is the best agreed upon pound for pound boxer. Okay? In history, boxing history. He is 50-0. No one's ever done that, right? He is a feminine fighter. He's a feminine fighter. What do I mean by feminine? He is a counterpuncher. He is very defensive. He mounts his attack based off how he receives yours. And it's very, very effective. Just look at his record. Extremely effective. All situations do not call for boldness and directness. I think you should be bold and direct in your deliberate use of a feminine strategy, a feminine approach, an indirect approach. When the Greeks talked about the gods, one of the main things that made a god was his ability to be crafty, to trick. That's all indirect. All indirect. Right? So it's not necessarily a bad thing to be an indirect, to act in indirect ways when the time calls for it. Understand? It's not weakness. If you look at a man's body, it's very straight and direct. It's very bold. It's very there. It's in your face. It is what it is. If you look at a woman's body, she has a lot more curvature. A little more indirect. It's not straight to the target. It's curvy. She's sort of more so on a receiving end when it comes to most things. There's absolutely nothing wrong with acting and having a feminine strategy. If you study Sun Tzu, you read The Art of War, you read Niccolo Machiavelli, right? Even if you read people like Joe Navarro, they talk about being discreet. Napoleon, go all day. Some of the best military tacticians were very, very, very indirect. And that's what made them great. And there's nothing weak about war. You have to change that paradigm. You have to understand that as a confident man, there's nothing wrong with being feminine in certain aspects, in certain strategies that you have. In certain areas of your life, there's a requirement for you to be more tactful and less blunt, and thereby more effective in those specific situations. But understand that it should be intentional. It should not be, you should not go through life reeking of feminine qualities in a bad way. You should be very deliberate and very intentional on when you employ these feminine qualities. And you should do them, you should exercise them in a very masculine and intentional way, very deliberate way. All right. So first of all, I just want to clear up that myth, right? Clear out that misconception, because it's dangerous. You have to have both. All right. And here's the second thing. It kind of also gets a little, tossed around in certain circles when you have people who talk about, gender fluidity and things of that nature. Oh, I'm not a man. I'm not a woman. I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm somewhere on this side. I'm somewhere on that side. Here's the thing. All right. And I'm talking to my men. Just because you were born a man does not make you masculine. Just because you were born with certain equipment in certain places does not make you masculine. Does not make you masculine. It makes you a male. Doesn't even make you a man. It makes you a male. Understand that. You aren't entitled to things you don't deserve. And if you ascribe to the Christian version of things, man's punishment was to work. If you do not work, you do not eat. And that's symbolic and it's allegorical. If you don't work, you don't deserve nothing. If you don't work for what you want, you should never get it. It's not that you won't ever get it. Even if you do get it, you shouldn't have got it. There are a lot of women who act in very masculine ways. I look at this definition of masculine. Okay. Handsome. I haven't seen a handsome woman yet. So we're going to pass that one up. Muscle. Some women who look better than me in the muscle department. Driven. I know a lot of women who are driven. Has vigor. Strength. Muscularity. That goes back to just muscles. Ruggedness. Toughness. I know a lot of tough women. Tough women. Right? Worked in a prison with some tough women. I mean, some tough women. You know, robustness, single mothers. You understand? Like, those are qualities that I can ascribe to a lot of women that I know. But there are also some men on the flip side of that who were born with testosterone, who was born with the right gear, and they don't have a masculine bone in their body. You talk to them, they don't make eye contact. You shake their hand, they're like they don't have bones in it. Can't make a decision to save their life. Can't make an attempt at anything. Too afraid of failing to try. Can't stand behind the decisions that they make. They make a decision and they hide their hands. I respect a woman 100 times out of 10. 100 times out of 10 over a man who does not take care of his business, and that woman is. I'm not going to see you as masculine. I'm going to see her as more masculine than you. Now, understand this too. As a man, if you're taking care of your business, there should be no concern about your masculinity or your woman being more masculine than you. There can never be a woman who can outman being a man. Point blank, period. Unless you as a man are not taking care of your business. If there's a woman out there who is stronger than you, it's simply not genetic. It's simply because she put in a lot more work than you did to get to that point. Show me the strongest woman. Show me the strongest man. The man will be stronger. Show me the best female tennis player. Show me the best male tennis player. And the male tennis player will be better. He will be stronger. He has that testosterone advantage. Even if you show me a woman who's taking testosterone replacement, who's on steroids, show me a man of the same caliber who's also on steroids. I guarantee that man will be bigger. He will be stronger. He'll be he'll be more efficient. That's the natural law. But there's a nurture side to it. There's nature and then there's nurture. Just because you was born with something, you can lose it very easily. And somebody who was not born with it, let's say a natural talent or a natural level of testosterone, can pass you up by sheer hard work and dedication. You then do not get to look at that woman and say, oh, you're lower than me. And even if she is weaker than you or whatever the case may be, that does not make you better than her. Because a woman has ways to do things that you don't have. A woman can leverage certain things that you can't. You might have more strength than her. Yeah, fair enough. But there are some women who can hold some over their head, and there are some men who aren't strong enough to stop them. It's a lot of men I know. Regardless of money, status, social status, there are a lot of men who just simply cannot control themselves. And a woman will not respect you. Masculine, feminine, no woman will respect you. Nobody will respect you if you can't control your own self. How can you tell me something? How can you raise kids? How can you be a leader in your household? How can you be a leader to anyone if you can't control you? So I'm done with my rant, all right? I'm just going to do a quick recap. Men, be more masculine. Simple. Be more masculine. Simple. Get on your business. Like take care of your business. Have a purpose. Have a purpose. Have something you're striving towards. Don't just wake up just to work and then work just to sleep and then sleep just to wake up. That is absolutely pointless. Get out into your community. And this is white, this is black, this is Mexican, this is whatever. Find your cause. Whatever cause that may be. I don't care. Find your cause, find your why, and get after it. Women, be more masculine. All right? If they won't do it, you do. And for everybody outside of that, be more understanding. Be less ignorant to some things and understand that there's just as much strength in femininity, be it indirect or not. There's just as much strength in femininity as there is in masculinity. Because at the end of the day, the universe evens everything out. All right. That's it for y'all today. I encourage everybody, stay great.